We might have started it a little early yesterday.
We might have.
Yeah.
Brad can knock off a little bit of that.
Can he? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good.
All right, now let me go back to the share here. Look at the screen. There we go. Unfortunately, I can't. I was hoping to be able to have access to all my controls and everything at one go, and Zoom isn't wanting to cooperate. Might be time to evaluate Microsoft's team meeting and a couple others and see if they function a little smoother. Because my year renewal is about up.
John, we've been using GoToMeeting, and they have all different options in there. They have GoToWebinar and GoToTraining.
Okay.
And we've really enjoyed using that. It's been pretty user-friendly. You can record your sessions. So just FYI.
That would be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And
hey,
much
Sam,
better
is
than
there I'm not sure if there is a, sorry, y'all, my phone is talking to me. Sam, is there a limit on the GoToMeeting? Do you have to have like different licenses for different amounts? I'm not sure on that. She doesn't know. Okay.
I'm sure there is.
I can read sign language. That means I don't know.
I don't think there's a limit. We use it for FARA, and I don't think there's a limit by participants. It's like any of these. Each user needs a separate fee per month, but not.
You mean each host?
If you're each host, yeah. So that's all, and it works pretty good with FARA. And one thing that we found is, for whatever reason, some government agencies will not allow people to connect to Zoom, but everybody connects to GoToMeeting. So
it's because of their affiliation with China.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Calvin.
Good morning. I hope everybody's doing well. It's a beautiful morning.
It is a beautiful morning. A little
Yes,
bit
it
chilly, but I like it that way.
Yeah. So
So who is the graphic designer for Southwest Dispatch? I mean, a different background every day. That's creative.
I would say I'd like to take credit, but it's not. Brant's the one that did that and created those and added the logos and stuff. So he's got that set up for the Halloween stuff, and we've got some for the next few holidays that are coming up. So
Wow.
yeah, he does
Hopefully
a
we
really
won't
good
need
job.
them.
First of all, brush
Right.
your hair and get dressed.
But I have a feeling we will.
The board is behind the chair over there, and you can start working on the puzzles in the table over there. Just work on that. Sorry, I had to get my morning smoochies. She has a day off today, so I've got my minion. Super excited. I don't get her over the last 8 years. I haven't had her but maybe a couple times for Halloween, so.
Oh, cool.
This should be fun. My 18-year-old's too cool for all that these days, so.
Yeah, I'm pretty suspect of 18 and 19-year-old kids showing up at my door.
Right.
Sometimes Mark won't give them candy. Mark says, "You're too old." And I said, "You can't do that, babe. Give them some candy."
Open the door, say, "Get a job."
Yeah, exactly. Or people that come up, adults dressed up with their kid in a stroller that's like 6 months old.
Yeah, no.
Like, that kid's not eating that candy.
That's right. I just buy all the candy, then turn the front porch light off and close all the doors.
There you go.
Yeah, I was having to explain to Addison on the way as I dropped off her step siblings this morning at school, and I was having to explain to her. She was asking if we were going to go trick or treating and could she keep the candy this year. And I was trying to explain to her that there's safety concerns, that we might do some from select people, but that would be about the extent of it. And she just didn't understand. And I was trying to explain. I'm like, some bad things have happened, unfortunately, in years past where people have done terrible things, and so we have to look out for them.
Yeah, we get truckloads that unload at the end of our street.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They'll come up with a pickup with about 10 kids in the back, and so
We
it's all
do
right.
too,
I mean,
Dennis.
Do what?
We do too.
Yeah,
We get
it's okay. I mean, it's for the kids and
Yeah.
that's, when I'm out of candy, I'm out of candy.
Mhm.
All right, let's
It's gonna
take
be
a
the
look.
first year we haven't done. Normally, all the neighbors gather in my driveway and we do a movie and like a potluck and make the kids parade down the sidewalk and give them candy. It's gonna be the first time in 10 years we haven't done it.
Mm.
So, and I don't know, it's kind of sad for
Mhm.
us older set. Remember running wild in our local town, being able to even get like home baked cookies or popcorn balls that you would get in your bag. You could actually eat that stuff back then.
Mhm.
I was gonna say, I think my dad, my dad's era had it best. It was so easy, right? I mean, they didn't have to worry about all of the craziness that we have today. I mean, me as a kid could hop on a bicycle and roam the neighborhood until the sun went down, and we didn't have to worry about a van sliding up and grabbing. I mean, I'm sure it happened, but probably not like it would today. Didn't have to worry about all the craziness that we do today.
Yep. I mean, we would leave the house on Saturday at 8 o'clock Saturday morning. We wouldn't come home till after dark.
On Sunday.
Right. And really, my mom would look at me and go, "Why are you?"
All right, I'm gonna drop the screen share just real quick so I can see how many people we got on. We're sitting at 46. All right, well, we're a little light. I was hoping for a few more.
Mhm.
Aaron is there. Van and I are finishing up on tech support call. Awesome. Awesome, awesome. All right. We got Dean. Welcome, Dean.
Hello, John. Hello, everybody. Sorry I didn't draw a bigger crowd.
Oh, just give it. I don't think it's you.
No.
I think it's more me. I don't know. I should take that personal, I think. Although I do confess we had 77, 78 yesterday, and right at about 70, I think, on Wednesday. So we've been doing okay. I can't complain, especially considering all the virtual and everything. I figure we'd get a few more though.
You just let me know, John, as the moderator, when you want me to start, and maybe I didn't know if you wanted Kelly to maybe do an introduction and then me to go in. I have Dan Mays, our general counsel from our firm, also on the call. So I look forward to having Dan give a little input as well.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I mean, I hate to keep you waiting for just a little while, but if you don't mind, part of the methodology behind this is that and I'll probably speak to this a little bit later, but one of the problems we've had is our members like to jump off and not stick around for elections and the fun parts of the general meeting. And so I put you behind that so that they have to still be here because you're the draw. So
we're bribing them with you.
That's it. So they're going to stick around or they're not going to get their CEUs. There's a method to the madness, and I'm sorry for having to keep you wait just a little while we go through the procedural stuff, but we're going to kick this off here in a second. In fact,
hey, I'm patient. I blocked this time. I'm all yours, so no rush at all.
Outstanding. Thank you. And I appreciate all your help with this stuff, and I'm looking forward to talking about the things we've been doing with you. All right. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. It's about a little after, it's 11:08. Welcome. This is our third day of the TBFAA virtual convention. I'm learning along the way with you guys. I mean, I've done plenty of virtual calls, but a convention per se, this is my first. But I think it's gone pretty well. I mean, we've been able to make it work, and we've been able to do it without spending a fortune. So that's been even better. As you guys know, we've got a few things we need to do today. We needed to have the general meeting, we have elections, and we have a legislative update. So, but I don't anticipate it taking forever, so no worries. We don't have to do the whole 2 hours, or at least I don't think we will, unless there's like a contested election or something, but I think we can even do that fairly quickly. So let me go ahead and grab my agenda. I'm supposed to let you guys know that we'll be conducting the meeting following the TBFAA policy on the with our antitrust statement, and it's on the website if y'all wanted to go read that. I wanted to welcome Dee McWilliams and Dan Mays from McWilliams Governmental Affairs Consultant. They're our lobbyists. They're looking out for us in Austin. I don't know of any other guests that I have on. If I do, y'all holler at me or send me a chat. I'd like to welcome my board. I'd say everybody raise your hand, but I don't know if that would all work. And so I guess I'll just move on. Calvin, I saw you on. Where are you at? There you are. Calvin,
Yes, sir.
would you mind doing our benediction for us?
No problem, not at all. Let's silence our phones, please, and bow our heads. Oh, gracious Father, we come to you today, giving you praise and honor and glory, and asking that you bless each and every one that's on this virtual call today and their family members as well. Lord, we ask that you bless our first responders. We ask for your grace and mercy and your protection. Lord, we thank you for this day, this meeting, and we give you praise and honor and glory. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Calvin.
Amen.
You're welcome, sir.
All right.
Debbie's like part of the family, but
Oh,
is
yes.
also a guest. So
You are absolutely correct. I'm sorry, Debbie. I jumped the gun on you there. We have Debbie on the line. Honorable Debbie Ulmer from the DPS Advisory Committee. She's also on the call with us. Welcome, Debbie.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Brad.
Thank you. Thank you for keeping me honest. I'm sorry.
Keep him in check, Brad.
That's it. Y'all got me a little nervous today. I'm not sure what's going on. All right, let me drag this over to the sharing screen and see if I can make this work. All right, let's see here. Bear with me 1 second. I think that's it. All right, do y'all see the meeting minutes from last year?
Yes, sir.
All right, all right, so I'll just attempt to drag this down a little bit so that you guys, if y'all don't mind, just kind of quickly take a gander at it. This is our meeting from last year. Let me know if I'm moving too fast. I just wanted y'all to kind of glance at it because chances are all of y'all didn't get it this morning, like 20 minutes ago. All right, and that was it. And so if I can get a motion from the floor to accept the meeting minutes from last year.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from last year.
All right.
As posted.
Hang on, guys. Van Mayorga makes a motion from the floor to accept the minutes from last year. We have a second from
Mitch.
Reitman, seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any declinations? Hearing none. Any abstentions? Hearing none. Motion carries. Thank you, guys. All right, let's see here, Van and Mitch. All right, rock on. All right, so we'll take that down. And thank you all. All right, so we have the next fun one. Well, I guess I didn't need to take it out. I could have just kept scrolling. All right, here we go. So here are our, hopefully y'all can see the balance sheet. This is our current sheet as of this morning. Mitch sent it over. Mitch, I'm going to pass it over to you to do a quick report if you're all right with that. Just kind of cover the big numbers and let us know kind of where we're at. And then we'll get a motion from the floor to accept. Let me know if you need me to drive anywhere, Mitch.
Okay. I ain't getting them up, so I ain't got time to be sitting up here not getting them.
And we got somebody that needs to mute. All right, taken care of.
Stan.
I got it.
The big difference, well, the big thing that we're doing this year that we didn't do previously, and we'll talk about a little bit when we get to the governmental affairs part, is the board voted to spend $30,000 this year to contribute to political candidates. And it doesn't have to come out of the PAC fund as long as we're doing grassroots type lobbying where we're supporting a candidate in general. We can actually pull it out of the TBFAA treasury. And our goal is to pick, and we'll talk about that when Dean talks. We picked some representatives and some senators that we think can help us rework 1702 this year in the legislative session and restore some of the things we had before and clarify some things. And it's going pretty well so far. We've had some good phone calls. So that's going to be, that expenditure is buried in, if you look in lobbyist fees, there's dean's fees, but also there's a $5,000 expenditure that we gave to one of the legislators, and then the other 25,000 will show up in October and November as contributions. And I think it's money well spent. I think it's fixing 1702 and clarifying some technical issues and getting some regulation, and maybe restoring the company manager, the qualified manager status, things like that. I think would help our industry a lot. I think it's what we should be doing, and where the money should be going. And it also allows us to leave the PAC fund untouched to spend on an actual race where we have something where we have to support a candidate or a bill or a position in a certain race or a municipal ordinance. So that's the biggest change from last year. Membership revenue is down a little bit over last year. We don't have any convention revenue, obviously, but we're still in pretty sound financial status. We've been investing in CDs a little bit, but right now with the pandemic and the recession, everything, CD rates are so low, it just barely even pays to be doing anything. But we did have for a while. We had some money in 2.2% rate CDs with Bank of the Ozarks, but that's all come and gone now. And as soon as rates start moving back up, we'll start investing some money in some short-term CDs again. If there are any questions, I'm glad to answer them.
I would like to point out, and this is no reflection on any particular individual or any of that kind of stuff, so don't take it as such, but we've had some bad luck at the last couple of conventions with bad weather or whatnot. So while we didn't have any income on this convention, we also don't have any losses on this convention either. So while convention does bring in a lot of money, it also costs a lot of money. And the last couple of conventions, we've taken losses. So on this one, I think we've done pretty well. Like I said, this hasn't really cost us anything to do what we're doing. So I just wanted to throw that in.
One thing I promised you last year that I just plain didn't get around to, but we're going to get around to the next month or so, is to do a budget for TBFA for the next year. If we would have done it, it would have been an exercise in futility because nothing worked out the way we planned anyway. But my goal is to get a budget for two reasons. One is so we can kind of see where we're going to be this time next year. But two is there's a lot of expenditures that the boards had to convene to pay and deal with that if they're in the budget, we're just going to take the position. If they're in the budget, like Brad's fees and things like that, they're just going to get paid without having to be specially approved. And that's going to make things flow smoothly. But so far, I've got a person in my office that handles all of our nonprofits that we work for. And she spends maybe 15, 20 minutes a month on TBFAA, and checks get cut as soon as they're requested. And things have been going really smooth. And I hope everybody is feeling like they're not having any issues with getting things out. And sorry, the financials came out this morning, but Heather's kids' school is closed entirely down for COVID. So she's having to work out of the house. So typically she's here and she's able to do stuff for the next couple of weeks. We're going to be dealing with her telecommuting. But if there are any other questions, that's great.
Hearing none. I did also want to share, I know last year at convention, there was a fella that was asking about having our financials. I don't know if he's on the call, but he was asking about having our financials published on the website and making that public. We did get that done. We got that done, I don't know, 6-8 months ago. And the financials, although today's financials are probably not there yet, but Brad will get them there soon. But our financial report is under the member section on the website. So you'll have to log in, but they are available. All right, moving right along. Thank you, Mitch.
You need a motion to accept the treasurer report.
I do, yes. Mary
Mary makes that motion.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
We have a motion from the floor from Mary Edmondson.
I'll second that.
To accept the man, y'all are in a hurry to accept the treasurer's report as verbally given and distributed by Mitch Reitman. The second was Van. Is that Van?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, Mary Van. All in favor of accepting the report?
Aye.
Aye.
Hey, y'all are doing really good hitting that. Getting off the mute real quick to do that. I appreciate that. Do we have any abstentions or declinations? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank y'all. Good job, Mary Van. All right, y'all on top of it. All right. So, according to my agenda here, I'm supposed to now do the elections. So let me get that poster real quick here, because I think we have it. Bear with me 1 second, guys. Did that bring it up? All right. Are y'all able? Where did we go? There we go. All right. Can y'all see that? Do we have the nominating committee? Is it up on the shared screen?
No, sir.
No.
No,
Still
sir.
have the treasurer's
I still
report.
see the
Treasurer's
paperwork for
report.
Mitch.
Yeah.
Treasurer's
Oh.
report.
Okay, good. All right. Well, give me 1 second here. I'm sorry, man. I'm fumbling with this. It's just my computer's not wanting to cooperate with the shared screen. All right. How about now?
Yes, sir.
There we
Yes.
go.
All
Yes, sir,
right.
there.
So what we have is the nominating committee had, and everybody on the board has agreed to stick around another year with us, and I am very appreciative of you guys for doing that. I know this has been a really bizarre year, and I appreciate I appreciate y'all sticking it out with me for another year. So the nominating committee has put forth Mary Edmondson for VP of Security, Van Mayorga, VP of Fire, Mitch Reitman as Treasurer, Sarah Salazar as Secretary, and Jennifer Lambert as Membership Director. Are there any nominations from the floor for any of those 5 positions on the board? Going once. Are there any nominations from the floor for any of those 5 positions? Going twice. Come on, anybody? Nothing? Y'all gonna make this easy? Any nominations from the floor? Going for the 3rd time. Hearing no nominations from the floor, I will accept a motion from anyone to accept the board slate.
I'll make a
as-
motion.
I'd like to make a
I'll
motion.
make a motion.
Ooh, y'all are
That
such
way
a
I
hurry
will
today. Whew. Y'all need to just settle down a little bit. Let me finish before you cut me off. Or what is it Dennis says? Do y'all mind if I talk while you're interrupting me? Yeah, so I tell my kids. All right, so what I was saying was can I get a motion from the floor to accept those 5 members for the board by acclamation? Now, who wants to make the motion? No, now
I
y'all want
make
to be
a
quiet.
Motion.
by acclamation.
All right, I couldn't tell who was talking. Sorry.
Looks like Mark made the motion. That's how I heard it.
And Calvin was seconded.
And Calvin seconded it.
Calvin seconded.
Got it.
Mark, what was your last name just for the minutes?
Matlock?
Oh, Matt. Oh, there you are. Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh my goodness.
Mark is with all due respect, I'm looking at 6 heads, not 50 on my screen. So bear with me, guys. All right.
You're doing great, John.
Y'all are killing me here. Whew. All right. All in favor of accepting by acclamation?
Aye.
Aye. Any abstentions or declinations? Hearing none, motion carries. Congratulations, guys. Y'all are stuck with me for another year. Outstanding. Again, I appreciate you guys' service. I really do. It's been good, and I look forward to doing more with you guys. All right, so what we've got up now is the regional directors. I don't know about Roger. He was our member, Region 1 representative from last year, so I just kind of kept his name on. I have heard from North Texas about Joy. I'm pretty sure Dennis was willing to stick around for Houston, and Sonny was put forward by San Antonio. Is that right?
Roger is on the call. He can.
Yeah.
Roger, are you okay with that?
Yes, I would like to serve again.
Outstanding. All right. And Joy, are you on the call? Are we going to get to elect you and abstention? Going once? Maybe not. Okay. Dennis, are you good?
I'm good.
Outstanding. Sonny, I know you're on the call.
I'm good.
Outstanding. Well, if y'all don't mind, we'll just knock it all out in one go. So all 4 have, well, 3 of the 4 have spoke. We'll just assume that Joy was okay with this. Can I get a motion from the floor to accept those 4 individuals by acclamation for their various respective regions?
I'd like to make a motion.
Calvin makes a motion.
I'll second it.
Van makes a second. Calvin, Van. All in favor, say aye.
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 Outstanding. Any declinations or abstentions? Hearing none, motion carries. All right, thank you guys. So that takes care of our regional directors. Congratulations, welcome. Thank y'all for staying on, and I look forward to working with Joy. All right, so next one up is the associate director. Aaron, I know you're on the call. I saw that beautiful mustache somewhere. Aaron, he does, man. He's got a great mustache. You should see this thing. It looks great. I'm a little jelly because my face won't grow that. So I wasn't quite sure how we would be able to do this, but I figure since you're on the call, associate member, even if it's just you, It's all good. Are you willing to continue on as
Just
the
me and Mitch. Yeah.
as the associate director?
Yes, sir.
Do we have any nominations from the floor that would like to serve instead, or to have a runoff? Anyone? All right, hearing none. Can I get a motion from the floor to accept Aaron Thomas as the associate director representative?
I'll make a motion to accept
Yep.
Aaron.
Dan makes a motion.
Second,
Was
That
that
was
Dennis for a
Dennis.
second?
that was me.
All right, and Dennis seconds. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any declinations or extensions? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you, Aaron, for staying with us.
Thank you.
All right. All right.
El Capitan.
Sorry, internet.
No, it's all good, man. It's all good. So Brad was telling me that when we do the appointments on the board, like the DPS liaison, and I made a few other appointments, that they're good, I guess, for the term of president. So I guess y'all are stuck with me for another year. So hopefully, Calvin, I hope you're okay with that.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
All right, outstanding. I don't know, is she on the call? We got Lauren and Catherine, Roger, Don, any of y'all? Holler. Okay.
Hey, John, can I just say something real quick?
Yes, ma'am.
I would love to thank Calvin for the work that he's done. We haven't had a DPS liaison in quite some time, and Calvin has done a wonderful job.
I agree, he has.
Thank
you,
you.
Calvin.
Thank you.
I really enjoy seeing Calvin working with Debbie and interfacing with DPS, and so I have been very happy with that. And I think that position is working well for us.
I agree completely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Calvin.
I agree with that too.
All right, so that took care of elections. I thought y'all were going to make this rough. We've been sweating this one. I know Mary for sure. Boy, she was keeping us on task if we had some plans in place. And just for the record, we did. In case there was a contested election, we had the ability with our current member system called Member Leap to actually do the elections and to send out the ballots to you guys. And so we could have done it, and it would have been cool.
Mhm.
All right, so let me see if I'll get my screen here to toggle. Maybe.
Did you polish that earlier this morning, Dennis?
I did. Should I get the glare down?
Right.
Man,
I'm gonna buy you a chamois.
I'm not sending you your gift card now.
All right, I'll behave. Okay, so where are we at? Well, it says I guess I'm supposed to do my president's report. I wasn't quite ready for that because I was busy trying to get everything else caught up, but I did have a couple of notes, and so I know y'all know I can talk, and so but I'll try to keep it low. State of the Association. So as y'all well know, COVID-19, probably don't need to say a whole lot more than that, but it sucks. We've all been trapped inside for way too long. I know for me, I'd definitely like to bust out. I mean, I've been working and out, but it's not the same when all the rest of my people are not out. I haven't necessarily missed the drives back and forth to Dallas and San Antonio and Austin. I miss the people, but the drive, not so much, because I do that in the same day usually. As terrible as COVID-19 has been, I think it has brought a positive side to the thing. Many employees have gotten used to working at home. Employers finally had to let them work remotely. And I think the future looks pretty solid that virtual telecommuting, like what we're doing right now, can continue going forward. I think people are seeing the benefits of that. And I think as an association, we can probably leverage that. I had already done that at one of our last meetings that we had. I think we were in San Antonio. We actually had a laptop with a little camera part that was looking at the board because we had at least one member, maybe two, that couldn't make it. And we allowed them to be on virtually, and it worked just fine. And so I've enjoyed that part of it, so I think there's opportunities with the virtual telecommuting where we can do more meetings like this, and we can be present more places and do more things virtually without having to drive. And I think how that leads into some of the goals that I've had was wanting to do expansion with TBFAA's footprint across the state. and it's getting there. We have obviously the technology, and we've been playing with it, and it's been working pretty good. We had a fellow step up from Northeast Texas. His name is Mason Duffield. I don't know if he's on, but he came to us and said that he felt like he could get a group of people there that, wanted to have their own chapter. So we blessed him and said, let us know, what we can do to help you, and we can do this virtually. The same goes for El Paso. El Paso has been near and dear to me. I know there's quite a few companies there that I've wanted to reach out to. And the cool part of all this is they don't have to go to the local supply house and try to find a training room that doesn't seem to exist because I've made all the calls and nobody's got one apparently. So what we can do is virtually. We can literally set up a call, host it, and people they can be anywhere. It just doesn't have to be just El Paso. Recently I got a call from Dennis telling me that there's somebody down in Corpus that's looking to expand and possibly open a chapter down there. So the growth opportunities for us, I think, are very good, and I'm looking forward to continuing to push that and use this technology to do it. I believe me, I would love to get back to the face-to-face and see you guys, but this is definitely a really good alternative, and it's more efficient with our time instead of having to drive all over God's creation just to have a 2 or 3 hour meeting and then back and have to go back home. So I wanted to share that. I thought that was it's at least an upside to COVID-19. And we can even as companies, my office gal that answers the phones for us. I'll tell you a little secret. She's not here in Houston. She started there, and then she went to Arizona, and now she's in Florida because her husband is up and coming and works for like the FAA now or such. And so technology allows us to be able to have a distributed workforce, and it works. And nobody's the wiser where she is unless they happen to just know because we've told them. Covered that. I did have one other comment. I kind of alluded to this earlier about the meetings, the general meeting. I know I've been serving on boards for a really long time. I know that they sometimes can be less than the most thrilling of events that we can do in our lives, but there's a lot of people, especially with this association we have, I want to say even with the appointments, there's about 25 people that I consider to be on our board. That's a lot of people that volunteer their time to be associated with TBFAA and to do the work that we ask them to do, and to run around and do these meetings, and to go to the Capitol and fight the good fight and try to, meet and get with our legislators and our representatives. They do a lot of work. And for our membership to not show up and walk out just because they don't want to spend the extra little bit of time, it's a little insulting just from the board perspective. And I'm going to speak for myself. I'm not speaking for the whole board, but it's a little insulting. And so I would like for, the rest of the association to consider that in the future, when we do have our back to face-to-face meetings, to please not ditch the meeting, to please come and show your love for the board that spends all their time, because we get paid a huge salary of $0 to be here and do this. And it's a labor of love. So anyway, I'm not going to beat you up anymore. I'm going to move forward. And I think that's all I really had as far as my meeting or the president's report. All right, so let's get to the legislative update. So Kelly is our legislative chair, Kelly Ryan. I'm going to transfer to you, and I'm going to bring up, I've got a little shared screen here, basically talking about, where is it? There you go. So I sent out an email to all of you guys letting y'all know that we spent some money. And so I'm going to let Kelly talk to you about kind of what we did and why. Is that all right, Kelly?
Absolutely.
Tag, you're it.
Thank you, John. Yeah, been tagged, and that's always good. It's interesting getting involved in the political side of things, right? You definitely get exposed to some more interesting conversations when it comes to the dealings, that happen in Austin. I will say, right. I will say that Dean's office has been doing a fantastic job all the way around. One of the things that they do is they constantly update me with things that are going on. One of the updates here recently were people who have put in their application to be Speaker of the House. As you're probably aware, Bonin had his fair share of problems, and so we will be having a new speaker. Whether it's an R or D is up, to the voters, I suppose. But there is one in particular. If you guys know of a Representative Thompson, I think she's affectionately called Mrs. T, down at the Capitol. Quite an interesting character. And I saw the email where she had put in her application to be Speaker of the House, and I'm thinking that would definitely make for an interesting session. but quite a few folks have put in their application, and so part of that is reflected in some of the people that we chose to contribute to. And as far as the contribution list goes, I'm going to try to pull that up just so I can kind of go down the row with you a little bit. We had.
There you go. Is it up for you?
All right. Oh, I was just going to look at it on my side.
Okay.
But, oh, you got it. Yeah,
I'm seeing it.
All right.
It must be it.
I went ahead and sorted it from senator to representative and highest to lowest.
Right. So we had a lot of great input from Dean and Dan on who to contribute to, and some of it is, try to play it strategically. There's been a couple of people kind of knock on me a little bit for contributing to Representative Patty. As you're aware, Patty is the one who wrote the Sunset Bill. There is a good chance that Patty could be the next speaker. So it's kind of like, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. I'm not necessarily calling him an enemy, but these are definitely people that we want to try to get in good with. Senator Donna Campbell although she ended up voting against us, she did give us extra time to testify to the senators, which was nice. Nathan Johnson, he had originally wrote the amendments on the Senate side. As most are aware, that was almost a straight partisan vote, and we lost, unfortunately. But Nathan Johnson, he's still fired up about it. On a recent call with him, he wants to work with us. He wants to see things come together the way we want. The salespeople return, the qualified manager, if you will. And there's some debate on that as well. Should we try to call the position of qualified manager and reinstate it? Should we maybe just instate the company representative as a true license? Right? There's some different ways of looking at that. But Senator Johnson was definitely a big help. Kind of going down the list there, Travis Clardy. I don't know if you guys haven't seen the video from the last legislative session. Clardy really backed us up. He is a high school alum, if you will, with one of our members. They're real close. That was a big help, right? So as we network around, get to know your representatives. Don't be afraid to contact them. And let's try to get in good with as many as we can. And that truly showed with Clardy and his testimony when he got up. Representative Kalani is actually my representative. She's in a pretty tight race right now. We don't know if she's going to be returning. We're just going to have to wait and see. But she definitely has it on her list to try to introduce legislation. She would introduce the legislation for us. Last session she couldn't, because apparently as a freshman representative you cannot introduce legislation, but now if she takes her second term, she would be able to do that. Kind of going down the list, the Vicki Goodwin and Biederman, they also jumped up and testified on our behalf, and we didn't even ask them to testify for us. Now they may have received some helpful emails, if you will, from some of our members. But it was a pleasant surprise to see them get up and talk. And then, of course, the last one on the list there is Tinderholt. Tinderholt's an interesting guy. He actually owns a guard company, so he understands a lot of what we're going through when it comes to the licensing with the DPS. And we got to bend his ear for quite some time. And he could be a really good guy to help us introduce legislation as well. So kind of that's where we're standing on that list. Dean and Dan. I need to, I guess, properly introduce you guys. Dean McWilliams and Dan Mays, two of the best guys out of the city of Austin that you could ask for. And Dan is a wizard when it comes to writing legislative paper. And he's actually sent me a proof on one going forward. What we have to do, and Dean may go into more explanation on this, but what we have to do going forward is we have to get ourselves in line with our bills. And the bills can be changed once they're in line, but we have to have something to submit. And one of the first ones, which we kind of joke around, this might be the easier one, is the fire CEUs, right? And so a lot of folks may know that Ernest McLeod with the State Fire Marshal's Office would like to be able to. But well, it's just one of those things. We're still debating it, but we have a position in line to where we can debate it, and if we want to move forward with it, we can. So that's kind of the idea. It's setting it up, right? Just because it's set up doesn't mean that we have to pull the trigger. So there's still talk and debate about what's going on with all that. So that's kind of the idea in a nutshell, is to get ourselves a spot. Whether or not these spots come through for us is still kind of to be seen, which I think Dean and Dan may go into a little bit more of an explanation, because this could be a very interesting legislative session. So to, I guess, maybe discuss a little bit about the session and elaborate on anything else, Dean, Dan, I'm going to pass the ball over to you guys.
Kelly, thank you so much. I always admire, and many of you, this is an intimidating group, but I have to, the fact that it's made of volunteers, and, you spend your time and money protecting your industry. And we have the luxury of being paid to do what we do. We take it very seriously. I never miss an opportunity to thank you for your business and enlisting us to help you at the Capitol and at agencies. That's the core of what we do. We've, as they say, been better lucky than good sometimes. We've backed the right leadership offices and candidates over time. I think you see from the contribution list, oftentimes that's a little more of an art than a science. And there are a lot of dynamics that went into the equation of selecting those members, because we take seriously, those are hard-earned dollars that come from your members that we are contributing to these elected officials. And I can tell you that I think Kelly and Mitch will attest to this, and I know Chris Russell has been involved too, that, we take great care in making sure that we have conversations, and in this COVID environment, it's been tougher, but make sure we have conversations with those we contribute to. And it's not always just the members who have stepped up and helped your industry. Oftentimes, they're members like Representative Patty, Chairman Patty, that Kelly referenced, that we had some issues with during the last session on the sunset legislation. But I think Kelly and Mitch will tell you the conversation we had with him was very productive and meaningful. Not only is he one of the leading speaker candidates, but he was sympathetic and basically revealed to us that, when you have this huge omnibus piece of legislation, he was in kind of a protection mode of passing it as is to not jeopardize it. And so he was a little resistant last session to some of the worthwhile changes we proposed. And I can tell you, we made, and I can't take a lot of credit for it, but, and we ended up losing by 6 votes on this particular floor amendment, but it was a valiant attempt. And we made some incremental gains in progress, so much so that in our conversation with him, he's open-minded, and I don't want to use the term "we told you so," but on the salesman issue and on the qualified manager issue, I think he and others are open-minded because we got close and because we educated a lot of members, that we can make some adjustments to that during this upcoming session to provide you some benefit and some relief. You know, the overarching strategy every session, and it'll be similar this time around, although unprecedented in terms of, you know, how the session may transpire because of COVID obstacles. But we always like to go into the session by planning ahead and having both an offensive and defensive strategy. One thing I'll tell you is that we had some big wins last session, especially on the defensive side. And I don't want to be too focused on just the sunset legislation, because Kelly will tell you there were two bills, one involving the electricians who promoted a bill that would have been very detrimental to the industry, would have put a lot of you out of business, or at least highly restricted a lot of what you do. We were able to kill that bill. In addition to that, there was a bill that we worked a lot on that was authored by a very powerful chairman in the Houston area, Representative Jim Murphy, that, as you know, many of you have heard about this, would have basically allowed municipalities to get into the alarm business. And they were bound and determined to do so. In these communities outside of the Houston area, fought hard and had a legislator with clout pushing this agenda. We were able, through a lot of hard work and some diplomacy, without offending the Republican chairman, able to thwart that effort. In addition, I'll tell you that we want this session, and I'm going to turn it over to Dan to talk a little bit about the process of filing legislation and some of the adjustments we're going to make in order to protect you, especially in a COVID legislative world. And by the way, as a side note, John, congratulations on your re-election as president. It's great to get that out of the way before next Tuesday, right? Whereas others are kind of on the edge of their seat with all the unknowns, all the uncertainties. You know, these polls going back and forth on, will Trump win Texas? Will Biden win Texas? You know, it's kind of the talk of the town, so to speak. At the state level, though, I wanted to give a quick recap of where we are. Most all of you know we have Republican majorities across the board. Every one of our statewide elected officials is a Republican, has been for some time. Some of you may have read that former New York Mayor and presidential candidate Bloomberg, just a week and a half ago, contributed $2.5 million of his own money to a railroad commissioner candidate, the Democrat, of course, which, you know, we don't see that every election cycle. That's real money in most people's estimation. I don't think that will necessarily win that race for her. She would be the first in decades, statewide elected official that's a Democrat. But I don't like to predict these things, but the real battleground in Texas has been on a couple of races. U.S. Senator John Cornyn's seat that I expect him to retain. It's closer than he would like. Never say never in politics, but my belief is that he will keep his seat. And then the State House of Representatives, whether or not that could go Democrat. The Republicans hold a 9-seat majority, so the Democrats would have to win 9. My prediction would be that will not happen. I think House Republicans will maintain their majority. Right now, they have 83 seats. I think the Ds could pick up a few seats here or there. I could be wrong. But I think we'll continue to have majorities in the Senate and the House, and our both U.S. senators obviously will remain Republican. One of the things on the Senate side, there's really only one competitive Senate race, and that's down in the San Antonio area. The first Hispanic Republican in the Senate, Pete Flores, the senator, won that race and has been serving, but he's being challenged by a House Democrat. Many think that will flip back over to the Democrat side. The Republicans have a 19 seat majority in the Senate right now, and so they would still retain the majority with 18 seats if he should lose. But that's the only one competitive Senate seat on the table. On the House side, as you know, there are dozens of competitive races. Therefore, there could be somewhat of a shift. Some of the House members on our contribution list, as I talked about earlier, are candidates for Speaker. We just had a flurry of activity yesterday. Kelly mentioned Representative Semfronia Thompson. That's the longest serving member, the second longest serving member after Tom Craddock in the House. She filed first. There's now been 3 Democrats to file application for Speaker, and there's been, I think, 4 Republicans, maybe 5 now, and growing. And so it's going to be a spirited race. It's not oftentimes the first horse out of the gate, so to speak. It'll take us a while to handicap this more. It won't likely be decided until certainly after next Tuesday and beyond. But the impact of the session, let me shift to that phase. What is the impact of a vacancy in the Speaker's seat and the new COVID conditions? And then the other, big issue, overarching issue would be budget constraints. So these 3 elements create a somewhat unusual situation. One aside about just practically speaking, how can a session function efficiently with distancing, limitations on access to the Capitol, et cetera? One humorous thing I learned, I was with the Lieutenant Governor all last Monday in my hometown of Texarkana. I got some really great FaceTime with him, which is part of what we do for you. It's our job to know the governor, lieutenant governor, members of the legislature, all 181. So when I spent a little time with Lieutenant Governor, we were discussing his challenge, which is without a speaker, one important chamber of the 2 in the Capitol, how do they make definitive decisions on who comes in and out of the Capitol? Do you have in-person meetings? Do you have all virtual? Do you vote in person? Do you vote virtually? And so the Senate Republican caucus, which is stable, has been trying to make some of these decisions. I laughed when I heard that they may charge lobbyists a fee for a rapid COVID test before they're allowed to enter the Capitol, which, we're easy to pick on. I like to tell people on the food chain, we're right below lawyers. And so it doesn't surprise me that an assessment would be made. The general public, constituents can come into the Capitol, take a free rapid COVID test and enter, but they're going to stick us with a fee, which is okay. We're willing to succumb to that. The other thing I think we'll find is that, the Senate at least would like to meet in person. It's their view that they can conduct these meetings, using proper protocols. However, it's going to create those limitations of not having the space in a committee room once you have the senators and their staff who can no longer sit behind them on the dais. You have very few seats left, even for a witness who wants to testify. So I think we're going to see overflow rooms being utilized. I think we're going to see business being conducted at the beginning of the session on Mondays and Fridays, where typically they would wait and only meet during midweek. I think you'll have some constraints, but also some benefit in more virtual access to hearings, public access channels, live streams, et cetera. And so the general public can view these proceedings going on, but it comes with some obstacles. And one of the things we're doing for you is starting early. Pre-filing of bills for the session begins on November 9th, which is, right after the election. And so our belief, and the Lieutenant Governor won't mind me telling you, he confirmed this with me, that there's only one bill that has to pass, and that's the budget. And so first and foremost, I think the emphasis is going to be on passing the budget. There are some fiscal constraints. And then secondly, the agenda is going to be addressing and dealing with COVID-related initiatives. And then everything else comes after. And so because some of our goals and after, we want to get started early, and Dan's going to talk a little bit about that process. I'm optimistic that things are going to be better than some expect, and steps are going to be taken to keep people safe, but business and the legislative session has to go on. One final thing before I kick it over to Dan. Again, we have balanced over the course of representing you multiple sessions this offensive and defensive strategy. I want to compliment the association for being willing this time around at the right time to give these contributions, because that gives us another asset that we don't always typically have, which, money isn't everything, but it does matter. And coupled with our education process and the relationships we've built and the information we provide, it's going to put us on a more solid foundation and protect your industry as we move forward. And so I'm feeling very optimistic and positive that we're going to be able to make some further gains this next session. And I want to turn it over to Dan now to talk a little bit about the process in terms of filing these measures and also defending ourselves against attacks, which we know inevitably will come. So with that, Dan, please continue.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And thank you, Dean, for teeing that up, because as Dean said, this is a session that, even during what we would call a normal or a regular session, so to speak, in Texas, you have, because we're biennial, you have probably almost 4,000 bills filed in the House each session, over 2,000 in the Senate. And even on a normal session, it's less than 11% of those actually ever become law. So the odds are always, against you. And with this session, as Dean talked about, it's going to be sort of somewhere in between, in a special session of the legislature, only certain items can be on the call and can even be considered. That won't be the case here. But as Dean mentioned and Lieutenant Governor confirmed, with COVID and all of these things going on, it's going to be a much narrower focus. So legislation that is not directly tied to these that they know budget or COVID issues they have to pass, it's going to be a much more difficult road to hoe. And as a result of that, the issue that, Kelly alluded to, what we're doing proactively for you, even more proactively than ever before this time around, is getting you a spot in line early, because the process is for a bill to be filed, the first thing you have to do is go to the Texas Legislative Council to get a formal Legislative Council bill draft. And that's a process by which Dean and Andrew will find a trusted legislator to submit the drafting request, because Legislative Council acts as the attorneys for the state senators and representatives. They have attorney-client privilege with them. And so what that does is you get in the hopper, so to speak, in that long, winding Disney World line, so that you at least have a place in line. And as Kelly alluded to, a good example, one we just finished up a rough draft on is the having, just mandating continuing education, if that's something that, the association determines it does want to move forward with this session, to get a Legislative Council drafting request in. Because once that's in and Legislative Council is working on it, then you've established attorney-client privilege. And one thing that through Dean and Andrews, connections that they're great about is most firms aren't able to do this, but we are often able, and we will in these cases be able to get the bill submitting senator or representative, the bill draft submitter, to designate our firm as an outside contact to talk to and speak with Legislative Council about that draft as it's being worked on. And so what that does, and again, using the continuing education bill as an example, is that if there are changes or tweaks or decisions of a different way to go on that the association makes in these next few months prior to the session, we'll have the ability to go in and edit that with the Legislative Council drafter as they go, without losing your place in line and having to go all the way back to the beginning of the line and resubmit and start over. And that's critical with this session, because it's going to be so narrowly focused. Again, in typical sessions, where you'll have 4,000 House bills filed, Dean will tell you, from what the Lieutenant Governor has kind of confirmed, in this type of session, if you're House Bill 3,800 something, you're going to be dead on arrival, because it's going to be a more narrowly focused session. So offensively, that's one thing that we're doing more proactive than before. And then from a defensive standpoint, as Dean alluded to, the bill filing begins on November 9th. And in terms of, Kelly alluded to, the things we notify you of, one of the things that we're going to be doing, again, more so than ever, is notifying your association of anything that could even not only directly on point to the industry, but also just any bills that can function as vehicles for bad amendments, be they, through the electricians or some of those, villages in the Houston area, or, or similar municipalities trying to get into the business. What we do is look at, bad language from previous sessions that always pops up and say, okay, we're not just looking for those bills themselves, which could always be refiled, but also, what area of statute did they amend, what would be relevant to that, and then just track that and keep you guys updated on what's out there, so that we can have a good defensive strategy. Because again, the upshot to this session is it's going to be, nothing's easy, but it's if you have a good defensive strategy in place going in, and you can identify those bills that could be harmful amendment vehicles early, you have a better shot at knocking them off. But the downside, though, again, the reason having a defensive strategy is so important is because there are going to be fewer bills. There are probably going to be a lot of what Dean and I refer to as Christmas tree bills, where you have a bill that's just relating to, okay, it's an electrician or electricity related bill generally, and anything that's vaguely germane or possibly amendable onto that, because there's going to be fewer bills, there's going to be a lot more amendments probably, I would suspect, being offered, where people who couldn't, again, they can't get their bill to move because there's fewer bills, so they're going to try to tack it on as an amendment to somebody else's bill as well. So that's going to be a very important function that we will be providing for you as well. And so we're actively in process on that, and working with Kelly and your legislative team to get your offensive strategy moving forward, but also really focus on defensive session as well.
Dan, thank you. And, and in summary, again, we very much value TBFAA as a client. And one of the trends in terms of the calls we've recently conducted with these legislators you've decided to contribute to has again been, as I stated, I think we'll continue to have a conservative legislature in Republican hands. And there's been this trend to resist additional regulation. We found on the calls, and as you've noticed from our elected official list, it's both Republicans and Democrats. And I would describe Texas as still being a bipartisan state. However, because Republicans control the majority, we have to be mindful and institute strategies to come across, which you are already, as being pro-business and only regulation when necessary. And so I think we've learned from some of these calls and some of this interaction that it's oftentimes the way we frame the issue with regard to salespeople, regulations, and qualified manager issues. If we convey the right messaging in that you all, for the most part, are small businesses, you help drive this economy. Texas is doing better relative to most any other state with regard to our economy, that there is a reasonable and rational way to right size and regulate in a proper fashion that doesn't run counter to this conservative philosophy that all regulation is bad. And so I think coming out of last session, where we know some mistakes were made, we're going to be able to send a strong message this time around that some adjustments are worthwhile and sound and reasonable, that will inevitably benefit your group. So with that, let me turn it back over to you, Kelly or John, and we're happy to answer any questions. Would love that.
Absolutely. Dean, Dan, thank you very much.
Thank you all. Do we have any questions from the floor? Anybody out there? Oh, Steve. Yeah, Stephen, go ahead.
Sorry, let me get myself unmuted here. Dean, Dan, thank you all for what y'all do for our industry. And I don't think Ryan Garcia is on the call, but I want to thank Ryan because Ryan kind of helps us out here with everything, TOPS related, registration related. But I just feel it's warranted that me as president of STAA, we express some concerns about how do we hold DPS accountable for actually enforcing 1702. I don't think there's anybody on this call who would argue that there does not seem to be a presence in regards to DPS enforcing 1702 with unlicensed companies. It very much seems one-sided that only the companies that apply for license, only companies that attempt to do business the right way, we're the only ones that have 1702 enforced upon us. I don't believe DPS has ever been able to produce any information regarding their enforcement on unlicensed activity. And to put it just very bluntly, it very much feels like this is taxation without representation. None of us are happy with some of the things that happened with Sunset and 1702, but we know we're working to rectify some of those things. But it doesn't address the elephant in the room, which is the lack of enforcement on unlicensed activity. It's just, frankly, it feels unacceptable. So I feel it's necessary to voice those concerns because we are regulated, but the unlicensed activity seems to go unchecked.
Yeah, Stephen, thank you for your comments. And I guess my, first response would be I share your pain and truly believe that, oftentimes, unintended consequences and bad judgment calls are made in the legislature. And as a result, we have to have some horror stories, so to speak, to highlight to policymakers, we got this wrong, or some changes have to be made. In the past, we've talked about DPS, and all due respect to them, having a lack of resources to, adequately enforce. I think the sunset bill from last session, in an attempt to reduce regulation and streamline, included a number of misguided changes. And, many of us, all of us believe, somewhat of an approach to diminish the Private Security Board was a huge mistake. And I think I heard Kelly and Mitch describe some activity going on with, either the sale or borrowing of a qualified manager's license is taking place out in the market that the agency, DPS, was not even fully aware of, is a reflection of some problems that are occurring that have to be rectified. And so I think we're going to be able to use some of that to our benefit and our advantage. One thing I will tell you, and it unfortunately doesn't happen overnight, but part of DPS standing to lose the driver's license division at that agency was intended for them to focus more on their core functions, which would include enforcement on issues like this. And so hopefully over time and with some work this session, we can help highlight and improve the situation. But you're right, Steve, it's not ideal. But I would love to have Mitch and Kelly chime in terms of what they're seeing and know about this aspect as well.
John, it's Mitch. I'd like to make a few comments if I could.
Sure, Mitch, go ahead.
One of the things I saw when I got elected last year was I was looking for what we could do as an association to benefit our members more. And for me, first and foremost is to make the business environment better. And one area where we have to really be concerned is regulation. And we obviously don't want to over-regulate ourselves, but we want to make sure that there's a reasonable amount of regulation where we're considered an ethical industry and that we are able to root out unethical behavior in the industry. So my goal this year is to address the fact that 1702 got pushed through the DPS sunset bill last time, and that was a freight train coming down the track. Nobody in the legislature is going to touch that because you end up on the news that you voted to get rid of the highway patrol or you voted to get rid of driver's license officers or something like that. So nobody wanted to touch it. And a lot of errors and a lot of things that I think weren't unintentional ended up slipping through. And one of the things is not regulating salespeople. The other is the qualified manager designation going away. So when we're talking to the legislators this year, my goal is on the offensive side to try to get some of that restored, is to get the salesman back licensed, or at least having pocket cards and background checks, and restore some semblance of the QM designation in this session. We may not be able to do it, but those are two things I'd like to see. The other things on the defensive side is making sure that we don't get regulation that we don't want pushed through 1702. A good example is the electricians bill that Kelly talked about last session, where the electricians are trying to get certain low voltage wiring required by an electrician. We want to make sure that if Dean's Group sees some of that coming through or getting tacked onto a bill somewhere, that we respond to that and make sure that that doesn't come through. Because that's my first goal, is to get reasonable regulation pushed through. My second goal is to be able to go out to people that we are trying to attract to join the association that say, well, what good do you do, TBFAA? And say, look, there were some things in 1702 that weren't good. There were some regulations that we think needed to be enforced and needed to be changed, and we did it. We had a legislative session because of the fact that we're organized and have funding and have talent like Dean's group and have experience like Kelly. We were able to get these things changed, and it improved you non-members' business and improved your life. And why won't you pony up some dues and join our association and actually pay for the benefits you're getting? So that's the second thing that I want to do. And I think if we can do those first two things, we'll be really happy. And my background comes from, I know the tax law really well. And I know that we were able to contribute general fund money to this. The other thing I want to do is preserve our PAC fund money, because when we get down to specific elections and specific bills and specific things that are happening, we got to be a little careful. And a lot of times that has to come out of PAC fund money. And what I want to have the PAC fund money available for is if we have another situation like this mayor in a suburb of Houston that wants to get into the alarm business, I want to be able to consider using PAC fund money to go support an opponent of his in the election and do ads saying why this isn't a good idea and why this guy needs to wake up a little bit and realize that, one, it's not good for us, but two, I served on a city council years ago, and I know the issues we had in a suburban town with our call center and how overloaded and overworked they were and understaffed they were. The last thing that anybody wants to responsibly do is to bring in thousands and thousands of alarm calls into a call center. I think any central station will be able to tell you operating a 911 center with calls coming in on 911 calls is tremendously different than operating a central station where you're having to discern false alarms and fire versus motion detectors versus all kinds of things, low batteries and things like that are happening. I don't think a 911 center is even close to staff to take care of that. And they have to train people a complete different way. So those are the things I want to attack and look at. I noticed Steve's comment about enforcement. I think that's a big frustration we all have. But without getting into a long story, the story I tell repeatedly about the guy that came to my door and said that he took over my company, which has 2 customers, my house, my office. I had him arrested, and the local police officer came over and arrested him. They bailed him out the next day and talked to the detectives, and they said that the DA wasn't going to file charges. I know the DA here, and I talked to her, and she said, I've got 200 prosecutors and 30,000 cases, and I've got to run for re-election every 4 years, and I'm not going to get reelected because I threw an alarm salesman from Utah in prison. And that's the reality that DPS has to face. And so I think down the road, maybe we can look at some civil penalties that they can do, some civil things they can assess, some ways they can go after unregistered and unlicensed activity. But what I want to do is take little bites out of our legislative issues and little bites out of 1702 and make progress and let these guys vote for us and get behind us and see that the legislation actually is good legislation and that when they're doing stuff for us, it results in a betterment for the public and the people that they're representing, instead of trying to ask for a whole bunch of stuff that we know we're not going to get all at one time and having these guys a little skeptical. If anybody disagrees with that approach, let me know or call me or speak now or email me. But I think more than anything else, this association exists to make the business environment better for our members. And this is one of the big things we do. The stuff that Dean's office does and brings to our attention, as he said, there could be 4,000 bills coming through the legislative session this year. And we have no idea what's going through. And they have the talent to look at a bill that may seem pretty tame and pretty docile, but is, like they're saying, amendment bait, where they could attach an amendment onto this. They could really mess with us. And that's why we pay Dean. That's why we retain him. That's why that's one of our biggest expenses. We are so affected by this regulation and so affected by what happens in these legislative sessions. We need to be out in front of it. We need to be somewhat offensive, but we need to be more than anything else. We need to be defensive and make sure we don't get caught like some other states where I belong to the associations have, where they woke up one morning and their entire industry was re-regulated or deregulated.
Thank you, Mitch. Okay, so
sorry, John, one angle, and I'll throw this out because I don't know if Dean has a way to bring this into either regulatory or
I was headed there,
or law, but the other angle on the unlicensed activity is the consumer protection angle.
Yes.
And some states have done public relations campaigns for basically telling consumers, don't contract with people that don't have a license.
Yeah.
And so you put it on the consumer. So they've had fire marshals, DPS people out doing public service announcements, that kind of thing, saying, protect yourself, use a licensed contractor. And so that doesn't relieve a DPS from the need to go after these folks, but you can in a way deputize consumers. It's worked in Florida, it's worked in Louisiana. They do a surge of it and then they get away from it and then they come back and do another surge. So I don't know if it's just cajoling agencies to do it or giving them some money to do it or what, but that's another possibility.
Yeah, and if I
You know-
may, Brad, that's a great point. I just want to bring up because sorry, Dean will tell you I'm a statute nerd. So in talking about 1702, there are some provisions in there. We know DPS and certainly the frustrations of the enforcement on their side, but when you talk about consumer angle and consumer protection angle, there are a couple provisions in 1702. For one thing, a violation of the chapter is classified as a deceptive trade practice, which kicks in the Deceptive Trade Practice Act, which, the Attorney General has enforcement authority on that side of it, and, their Consumer Protection Division. So that is something, you have, in addition to the DPS angle, there is, and these are older parts of 1702 that when I look have not been amended since, 2007, 2009, but the OAG's office, certainly any, you talk about any criminal prosecutor in the state can bring an action in district court for, injunction or civil penalty. But especially when you bring up that part of it, there's, in terms of other ways to skin the cat that the group might want to look at that are there aside from just DPS, that and the Deceptive Trade Practice Act, it exists there to essentially be a consumer protection mechanism. So, and that's there.
Thank you, Dan. All right, let me see if I can reel that in. So, thank you guys for your comments on that. So, Stephen, I'm there with you, brother. I feel the same way. We're all in the business. I'm very familiar with 1702. I'm kind of a nerd myself, liking to read through those things, and I don't like the fact that, God bless you, Debbie. I think we just have to wipe that off the screen. No, anyway. I don't like it when people violate, when there's folks driving up and down the road, trying to install cameras and things, and you can look at their truck and know it's probably not legal. And then I can't find them in tops anywhere. I do take pictures and I do send them over to DPS, and I do it. I continue to do it with the hopes that things will happen. And I do eventually get a letter, and I sometimes get a call from an investigator. And it's multifaceted. You guys have talked about also the DAs not wanting to take the charge and prosecute it. We've been down that road here in Houston. I've drugged the captain of DPS in the Houston area to the meetings, and she straddled a fine line. But not to put words in her mouth, but at the end of the day, one, they don't have a ton of officers where they can go do the enforcements. And then two, when they do the investigation and try to take it to the DA won't take it because Harris County, as I've already said, has rapists, murderers, pedophiles, etc. Those are all people that and I understand. I want those people hung too and put in prison. I would certainly take those people over, a minor infraction, but operating out of license, it's not right. It's still against the law, and I feel like they have a duty to enforce that. If not, then why have the law if we're not going to all have to follow it equally? So I'm right there with you, Stephen. And as I said, I believe it to be a multifaceted situation. One, we probably need to go bang on the DAs. We need to probably get them and figure out a way to incentivize them to start stepping up a little bit more. But I'm not sure how successful that will be. I definitely like where Dan is at, talking about maybe we can do this under deceptive trade type enforcement. And if we can maybe punt that up to the AG's office, he stays really busy with all the other stuff all over the United States, writing his amicus briefs for God knows all sorts of stuff. I wish he'd step up on child support, and maybe he could help up with 1702 as well. That'd be really great for Texas. But if we could head that way, I think that would that certainly would go there. As what Brad was saying, educating the populace. been trying to work on some of that. I even mentioned it yesterday in the DPS part, suggesting that when our technicians go to the houses of our customers and popping out the pocket card and showing them, that's a part of the way I try to push our guys to do, is to, when they show up on the door, show them your license. It's what I do when I go, show them my license. I give them my business card that has my complaint lines on the back of it with my name and all the information, as if I was a door-to-door sales guy. Well, at least what the old requirements were. They have all that information, and I tell them that this license, and I can't tell you how many deals I've closed that were just a referral by walking in with my fire license and my DPS pocket card and saying, these are my licenses, and if anybody else has talked to you and hadn't shown you them, you might really be suspect, because they may not have these and I do. And it closes the deal right then and there, because I've done something the rest of them didn't. I really encourage all of our members to do the same, implement that from a business strategy, and have your technicians and those folks that go out to the door-to-door and meet with the customers, educate them. We do have Facebook out there. We have the private security, or Texas private security page. Haven't done a whole lot with it lately, but it is out there. We have, 2,000 or 3,000 people that are connected to it that we can send education stuff out to. Maybe we need to get behind that and start pushing that a little more to see where we can go with that. But anyway, to Steven's deal, you made a comment that that we don't get much follow-up and that there's not a report to show what they do. From my experience, when I was going to the PSB meetings and they were having those, they do have those reports. And so what I would like to do is, there you are, Debbie. I'm going to punt to Debbie because she, being our representative on the advisory committee, I think she has access to those reports, and maybe she could talk anyway. So can you share that the reports do exist and that perhaps we can get them and we can disseminate them?
We do. Quarterly, we do get a report from enforcement. Obviously, there's no names on it because they're not going to comment on ongoing cases. Now, on the TOPS website, and I was looking for it to see what it was currently being called, you can go in and look at the enforcement cases that have closed. But it doesn't really say what they're doing or what they've done, but you can actually go in there and find them. But John, if you would like, after our quarterly meetings, I can do a brief recap of the meeting and send it to you, and you can send it out to everyone if you'd like.
That'd be fantastic, please. And maybe also disseminate it out to the other presidents so that we can get it out a little more public. I know those exist, but and they're tough to kind of keep up with. But yeah, if we can get those.
I do push them. And I mean, they're also in the minutes of the meeting that's published about a month after each meeting. They're not great reports, but they're better than nothing that we've gotten in the past. And when I've brought up more enforcement for our industry, basically what I was told is you have to look at the threat to the citizens of Texas. A commission guard is a much stronger threat to the citizens as opposed to a guy turning a screwdriver. That's why I've suggested going all the way back about 2 years ago. When you read about cases that you can find in the paper or on the news or, in Texas, where somebody in our industry has created, some kind of horrible crime, unfortunately, please save those and, let's start stacking those back because we're going to need that as ammunition to get this changed.
Thank you.
And also, I'm really sticking my neck out here, which is probably going to bite me in the butt. But when you send something into DPS, please copy myself or Calvin on it. That way I can follow up on it meeting after meeting. I mean, our meetings are still quarterly, but I think it might hold somebody accountable if we start asking very valiant, or prevalent questions on them.
To that, Kelly wanted me to point out also that a few sessions back, we tried to push some code change that would allow them to more easily fine and punish unlicensed companies more administratively than criminally. And I don't think, in fact, DPS, I believe, opposed us on it. So maybe this is another opportunity where Calvin, Debbie, maybe we can go back to, because I know we straight up asked Ryan yesterday on the call if there was any legislation that they would like some help with, and we got to know, but maybe he just doesn't know. Maybe he doesn't understand from our perspective. There is some enforcement issues that maybe we could, maybe we need to take that mantle up and maybe see if we can pipe that in along with some of the changes we have in this bill that we want to do. Because certainly salespeople getting them, back background checked and regulated is kind of a big deal to me, because the fact that you can get straight out of prison, I know I'm preaching to the choir, but you can literally walk out of prison and go sell alarm systems. Turning screwdrivers or not, that can still be very dangerous. I mean, walking in and because the customers don't understand the difference between a sales guy and a technician, and sales guys, I would argue, probably are told all the dirty secrets of the house before the technicians even get there to install it all. So I just, if I end up in front of these people in Austin, it's going to be entertaining. But yeah, so perhaps Calvin, maybe we can do that. Let's maybe go have another talk with Ryan before we get too far, and let's bring up the enforcement stuff, and let's see what we can do to make him more aware of where we are in not having in wanting it done, and what can they do to help that, and let us know, get us follow up back up besides those reports.
John, let me give you some insight.
There's Mitch.
Something that Deb brought up. We do the tax return for assist too, the physical security, the guard side, and I go to their convention every year. And a couple of years ago, the director came out to speak to them. So they've got a different set of issues than we have. It's not unusual for a security officer company to go through 100 different employees in a year. So their registration issues and their pocket card issues and their interface with Ryan's group are tremendously more. So they've got lots of concerns about that, and Ryan's group's working to streamline that for them some. But the other issue that DPS is looking at is their unlicensed activity is a big issue, and it's a big safety issue. And you have guys and bouncers in bars wearing security shirts and carrying guns and hitting people over the head with nightsticks and tasing people that aren't registered, that aren't licensed, aren't anything else. And I can't imagine in this day and time what would happen if an unregistered security guard, or even a registered one, shot a shoplifter in the back of the front of a dollar store on a Saturday night. What kind of issues that could cause. So DPS has taken the approach that is really where the regulation needs to be. They've got limited resources. And so when they're going after unlicensed activity, they're looking for guys providing guards. They're looking for bouncers in nightclubs. They're looking for personal escort people, for bail bondsmen, for all these people that come in and flaunt the laws. And so we've kind of fallen through the cracks. And so when it comes to enforcement, they hear us, but there's not much they can do about it. And of course, the DAs aren't prosecuting it very much. So remember that. When it comes to Ryan's group, I don't think he's going to be real forthcoming about what their issues are, because he's spending a lot of time trying to address the needs of the guard companies. And they do. If you're processing 100 employees a year, you're going to be interfacing with Ryan's group a lot more. These changes of 1702, I think, really took them by surprise. And even though Ryan says that there's really nothing he wants to change, I think he's a little reluctant to talk about it because, for example, my company just has my house and my office. I just keep my company active, but I was a qualified manager and the owner. Last year when they did away with a qualified manager, they took away my owner status too. They didn't realize they'd done it. So my company had no owner. And so I had no pocket card anymore. And I've been trying to resolve this with the state for a while. And I reached out to Ryan yesterday as in the chat after the meeting. Within about 20 minutes, they took care of it. But they have systems issues. They have other issues they've been having to deal with. And I think Ryan's more focused on getting that done. But one thing in the big picture we may need to consider is maybe get away from DPS and get into more of a consumer side. And it's one of those, be careful what you ask for, you might get it. Other states have done that and ended up being with the hairdressers and the real estate brokers and everybody else. But to some extent, you got to think, is it really necessary for us to be regulated by DPS? And in their hierarchy of where they're concerned about stuff, we're not very high. Now, where I think there's a lot of exposure is the video guys. And I'm hearing stories all the time from people saying that I had a friend who's hired a video company to come install a system in her 35-year-old daughter's house. And the installer copied all of her information, was actually stalking her on her home video cameras. And the guy, no company, the guy was, I couldn't find him in the database. Nobody knew who he was. And those are the kind of criminals you worry about. I got a message on Nextdoor the other day that people were working through our neighborhood saying they're from the electric company. When people open the door, they break into an alarm company cell still. They asked me if I could do anything about it. Well, the guy doesn't need to have a pocket card anymore. I don't know what the police can do about it. And if the company's out of state and unregistered, I don't know what DPS can do about that at all, because the only person they can go after is the salesman. And the salesman doesn't have to have a pocket card. So what really can they do? So what I'd like to address is just start in little bits and pieces, addressed with the biggest issue is the salesman, and the second biggest issue is the QM, and try to get that fixed. And then the next session, maybe try to get some more of this stuff done, and maybe get some ability. And we'll work with Dean, and we'll work with some other people to try to get some civil penalties incorporated into this, where we can go after these guys civilly, or DPS can at least.
Actually, Ryan is the wrong person to take this to. Ryan is over licensing, not enforcement. And if after this meeting, because I see we're narrowing down on 2 hours, if y'all want to schedule another meeting, we can explore this in greater detail and which direction I think it needs to go within DPS to move forward. But we've had several guard shootings here in the Houston area over the past couple of months, you know, which has really drained our Houston area resources for DPS or PSB, whatever they're called.
Well, I think we need to look at all of our options. If we have to get creative with it, and like you said, Debbie, put our minds together and figure out, you know, what do we need to do? Number one, maybe to make it easier for DPS to institute. I see that Kelly put in the chat that DPS actually opposed the stuff we were trying to do. So, you know, maybe there's just another way to go about it, and we haven't thought outside of the box enough.
Well,
if we're expecting DPS to show up at that location and find them and this and that, and then the DAs aren't taking the charges, maybe there's a better way to handle it.
I think the biggest disconnect that we have with DPS, and when we went to I thought we lost John there for a second.
No, we're good.
When we went and met with the colonel, what was that, guys, 2 years ago? A little over 2 years ago now. And the colonel had said that he had just gotten his new alarm system. And I asked him, I said, how did you do that? And I don't think he honestly knew how it happened. I think he told his wife or secretary, I need an alarm system and I need it beefed up. I think he was kind of under the impression you went to the alarm store, picked out what you wanted, and then somebody came out and put it in. I don't think he realized that somebody's going to come out and walk through your house intimately, sit at your kitchen table, and talk about what your fears and concerns are. I don't think he realized that. And I think a lot of the people that, you know, are in our Texas legislature are of that statute in their life where they have somebody they can delegate it to. And it's not like the lives that we lead where we handle these things ourselves, which is my big concern.
I want to kind of wind this up, but Mary, I agree. You know, as I've already even said, this is multifaceted. I think this would be very good for board conversation, if my board will tolerate talking to me for that long. But you know, I think so. I'm planning to have a board meeting next month. We'll probably do it in parallel with Stephen's group, STAA. We'll do it in conjunction with them. We'll probably tail on behind you if that's all right. And I'll get more information out via email. Don't be scared. And we can bring this up. I'll get this on the agenda. And if I forget, one of y'all remind me, we'll get it on the agenda and we'll talk about it. We'll talk about some of the different ways that we may be able to approach this. And maybe we can drag Dan in after we've decided on which way we want to go with it. And let's take a look at some of the deceptive trade options and see if maybe that will work. Because I don't know. I don't think we've pushed that one yet. But maybe we can come up with, even at looking at the code, if there's a couple of, small lying fruit or close fruit that we might be able to tweak in 1702 to kind of pop into this, into our bill, that maybe we could get this pushed through. I did it kind of quietly, but last year, I know my board knows, but last year I put a fella on the board. I appointed him on as a director emeritus, but his name is Don Heiser. He's the locksmith president. So between he and I, we had 50% of the private security group represented in one board meeting. I've also had ongoing conversations with the president of Assist, and I've reached out to the president of Tally, the private investigator guys. I'm trying to get it where we can get more collaboration between the four wings of private security so that we can start knocking down this enforcement, because we're not the only ones that want this. And I understand guards, wield a lot of juice because they have so many people that are coming through it. But an errant guard I'm sorry, but an alarm technician is just as dangerous if they come back to the house and break in or, do something to the family. That's just as dangerous as a guard carrying a gun. And so, and I think that DPS needs to recognize that and take it a little more seriously. Because we've got cameras, we can see in the houses, we can see what's going on. Locksmiths can take care of the locks, walk right on through the doors with their own keys, because I'm a locksmith as well. So I'm intimately aware of how easy it is to blaze through residential security, and then the alarm systems, and so and just take them offline. So that it can be a very big deal, and it can be very scary to the citizens of Texas. And so I think we need to be taken just as seriously as any of the guards. But anyway, we'll process that. We'll push it through, and we'll talk more about it on the board meetings before we get to the Capitol and see if there's anything we can do about it.
John, can I just ask Dean and Dan a quick, in terms of deadlines, in terms of when we need to get our positions together on what we want out of the legislature next year? Is that December? Is that November? When is that?
Yeah, Brad, good question. Earlier the better. I would say, our kind of internal goal was kind of into next week, would be ideal to have something at least submitted. I mean, we can go beyond that, but our hope is to try to pre-file these measures.
Okay.
But we can edit it after the fact, though. Yes, we can file it, but then edit afterwards.
Yes, absolutely, John.
And so that's what I think that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to get whatever filed, and then we'll come back and follow up with corrections as we go.
Yes, sir.
I mean, I recognize we don't have forever, but we'll get it done quickly. So on that, I'll go ahead and I wanted to mention, just a couple of other things. One, I wanted to recognize the new presidents and the continuing presidents. So Stephen Harper, I believe you're still the president for San Antonio, STAA. Wanted to recognize him. Also wanted to recognize Sam. She's, I believe, the new president for North Texas Alarm Association. And I wanted to recognize, where's Brian? I thought I saw you. Wake up, Brian. There you are, Brian Turner. He's the new president for Houston Gulf Coast Alarm Association. So I wanted to recognize them and welcome you guys to the board as the liaisons from your respective regional associations to the state organization. I wanted to take like 1 second to also remind you guys what the difference is between the state association and the regional associations, and why you need to be a member of both if you're not. The state, as we've already mentioned, we have Dean. Dean is probably the most significant difference between us as the state organization and the regional associations. We pay for the lobbyists, and he brings to us all, anything that could likely affect the alarm association or the alarm industry. He brings it to our attention so that we can address it and disseminate information out to it. We obviously still have a good relationship with DPS and with the state fire marshal, and we interact at the state level on those things. Although the regionals, as Van, can well tell you, the regionals also have very good relationships with them too. So we have some similarities there. And then what makes the regionals, in my opinion, separate and different is that they have the local representation, is that they meet with the local law enforcement, the local regulators, and they can bring that information to the regional associations and have those local connections that the state doesn't have, which is why, in my opinion, you should belong to both if you don't. So that's my little spiel. Hopefully everybody here is members of their regional and state association. And if you don't have a regional, that's okay. With the help of virtual, if you're interested, we could probably pop up a little group in your area and we can do it virtually. So there's that. So the other thing I wanted to mention was the LMS. So that's our learning management system, and we've been recording these video conferences, and this will be the third that we're going to park up online, and it looks like we'll be able to crack almost, we'll probably get 2 hours of CEU after this one. We've been recording them and parking them up onto the LMS, and so you guys can log in and you can have your employees and whoever else all register, and they can watch this and they can get their CEU credits for it for free because you guys are all members. Well, assuming that y'all are all members. If you're not, you should be. And I'd like to point out that yesterday we had a guy join. He emailed me and he joined. He was not a member before. Something that we didn't get that you would normally get from convention if we were doing face-to-face was the NEC and the ethics. I'm sorry that we weren't able to kind of pull that into all this, but those are classes now that are up in the LMS and they are live. And so if you need the National Electric Code or ethics, for if you need those to continue on with your license, those are for pay. I think it's $25 maybe, something along those lines, 25, 35. You can sign into the LMS and you can take those as a member and get that for you. It's normally we'd get that at convention if we were doing face-to-face, but we just don't have the time with the virtuals. So I wanted to point that out. And I think that's all I've got. So if there was anything else, speak now.
John, one more thing is because we're not doing some of the sessions this year, we're doing a couple sessions online. I put it on the TBFAA Facebook site. We're going to do one. I have an attorney that works with me a lot, do a presentation on lien law and how to file liens and how to do collections. And if you go to the TBFAA Facebook site and send come to my email, we'll send you a link to the session. It's next Friday at 3:00. And we will have it registered for an hour of CEU, but you have to be a TBFAA member to get the 1 hour of CEU. So anybody that is on the session that's not a TBFAA member will be told, if you join by the end of the day today, you'll get an hour of CEU.
Outstanding. And I think we've had some conversations. I guess I'll put you on the spot, but I believe you're recording that. And did we discuss possibly putting it up into the LMS for?
I will be recording it and we'll put it up there. And one thing I asked so is that nobody gets CEU unless they're a TBFAA member. I want this to be a marketing thing for TBFAA, and I want you to have to join to get the CEU. Then I'm doing one in a couple of weeks. We're going to do one about independent contractor versus employee. And I think it'll draw a lot of the smaller companies out that may have some questions. And I'm going to push them hard to join TBFAA to get the CEU.
Outstanding. Thank you. Yeah. So look for that after next week. We'll try to get that uploaded into the LMS as well. And the fire stuff, we're working on the fire prep and residential fire. We've been working on it for a while, but I've visited with Brad. And so we're trying to get that done before the end of the year and get those live. And I am still looking for the associate members and for the monitoring stations. I know I'm putting y'all on the spot, but I'm still looking for the 1 hour CEU where you get to brag about your company and park it up so that we can put that on the LMS and offer those for CEUs as well. You can discuss your monitoring station and the services and all that, because those are things that all the rest of us dealers need. We need to have monitoring stations and to do what we do. And it's helpful to us to know all of the services that you guys provide. So still looking for those. Ma'am.
Could you explain what our intent is going to be with the fire class so that everyone understands it's not just a regular fire test prep, right?
That's not true. About? That's what we're, yeah. No, there's a couple of things, and I guess what we had put together.
Van VP Brad, of Fire. Go ahead, Van.
Talk there. Okay. So it's my understanding, and we talked to Brad about this. We're going to put a 2-day class up for the fire prep class. That's one. And then what we're attempting to do right now, and this is in Ernie's hand, is actually get the fire technical test through TBFAA. So you will be able to go take the TBFAA, or you'll be able to take the fire technical test through the TBFAA without whether you take the fire prep or not, or doesn't matter. I mean, like right now we go down to Pearson or Thompson Prometrics and take the test. So we're wanting to be able to do that. So number one, yes, you could take the fire prep class. You could also take the test, two separate items. And I did talk to Ernie a little bit ago. I did talk to Ernie about that a little bit ago.
The residential alarm technician
Yes.
was an 8-hour class that we could take, and then you do the test afterward.
That's correct.
Where you could get the tech with that.
Right.
So that was something a little different as well.
Right. No, I was talking about just the standard FAL, but yes, and you could do that as well.
Right.
And I did ask about the rules and regs, and they're going to hold off because there's going to be a change on that supposedly. We'll see how soon. He told me we would talk about that soon, but just kind of hold off on that. So that's where we're at with that, Mary.
Yeah, just
All right,
sorry, I just wanted to let everyone know it's not just going to be our regular fire test prep.
Correct. And
that's correct.
To let everybody know, Brad and I had a long conversation with Ernie on the road one day. I was driving and I called Brad and got on there, and Ernie got on there. We didn't just want to be able to take our 2-day class and take a test and do that. We want to be able to be somewhat similar to Thompson Prometrics or Pearson and be able to give the test. If you study on your own, I mean, I studied on my own. I had to drive to Austin to go take my test. All that's gone. But if we have the ability to do the testing in a safe manner, and Brad has said that he does, and he's got that proven, then they will allow us to give the test without taking anything. So you can study on your own and then take the test. That's what we're after. That's number one. If we can get that in place, then that's what we're going to go. And then I'm still going to hit him hard for the rules and regulations. There's no reason that Brad can't put together a separate test, a total separate, because they don't want to mix them. They've made that clear. They want to do a totally separate test with 50 or 100 questions over the rules and regs. And I want to, hopefully by the end of next year, be able to give that so you can come to the TBFAA, be the only place you can come to and actually take your rules and your regulations and take your technical and get your license and be done, walk away.
Yep.
So that's where
as you can see, we have a lot going on with the association.
Oh,
we're doing a lot of things. Yeah, y'all are welcome.
This is the perfect time to let everyone know.
I totally agree.
A lot of people don't know everything that we're doing behind the scenes.
Yeah.
They
really
don't.
So everybody, I wasn't on the call the other day. I was.
It's not just for members; it's statewide.
Yeah, I was actually stranded in Mexico. I'm sorry, but
I'm glad you made it back.
Yep. Hey, did Ernie cover? Because I talked to him a little bit. There is going to be a change in the rules and the regulations about design companies. Does anybody talk about that? Did anybody bring that up?
I'm sorry. Say that again.
No. There's going to be a change in legislation on the rules and regulations about design companies. Right now, currently in Henry Munoz owns Velocity Cab.
You're talking about something involving like the APS and being able to separate things and responsibility. Yeah, I think you did discuss some of that.
Oh, he did? Okay. Well, then
you could go back and watch the video and you would see that on the LMS. It's for free.
Yeah, well, I was told that somebody was going to actually put together something
it's all there.
That we
it's
could
live.
follow. Okay.
It's all there. Oh, you missed yesterday's. I did that yesterday's meeting.
No, sir. I was there yesterday. I watched yesterday's too.
So then you know how to get to the LMS. Call me after. I'll walk you through it. All right. Here. Anything else? Anybody else?
Just real quick on the subject of keeping up on everything that's going on. We do a weekly newsletter. If you're not getting it, send me an email, exdirector@tbfa.org, and I'll sign you up for the list. Don't have to be a member to get it, but we do a weekly newsletter that includes stuff going on all around the country, but also things going on in Texas.
There's good articles in too. I do. I like a number of the articles that y'all post in those. All right. Anyone else? Going once, going twice. Dad, you got a motion? Hurry up, hit the mute. Oh, he don't even know what he's doing.
Unmute.
Dad, press mute or unmute. All right, he's 80 years old now, and so he's a little slow on the go.
Well, John, you can unmute him.
I can't actually. I can mute him, but there you are.
There
Make a motion.
goes.
Make a motion, Dad.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn the meeting.
Thank you very much. All in favor of adjourn?
Aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Abstentions,
Bye, guys. It was
declarations.
great to see everybody.
See you guys later. Thank you all for
Have a
participating in
great
the convention. We'll
Cool.
see y'all soon.
Thanks.
Yeah.